Old Timers Day today.
There you go.
Welcome to the channel. In this video, you're going to hear from a man named George Robinson. He has been woodworking since I think he was like 14 years old. If you follow the channel, you know I did a video with him before where he talked about Stanley and how Stanley never really made a plane. But what they did is they acquired a lot of other companies to make these parts for them, and they kind of just put the plane together. So in this video, he's going to talk about a few of those different acquisitions and the parts that they made for Stanley. Let's dive in.
They have been acquiring tool companies. Matter of fact, the most recent one they acquired was MTD, the lawnmower company, just within the last 2 years. So Stanley's acquiring companies hasn't stopped. Okay, Stanley's first acquisition was 1857. A company called Hall and Knapp. They were located in New Britain, Connecticut, the home of the old Stanley Company. And they finally closed them in 1984 when Stanley left the United States and went to England. They made tri-squares. That would be the rosewood handle and blade fastened on with a fancy piece of brass. And the levels were cherry with fancy plates for both the plumb and level. And they also had a plumb on top. But they were all done in fancy brass and bone and ivory. The next acquisition was 1904, Hurley and Wood. The company ends up, their manufactured item was Hurwood, Hurwood. They made screwdrivers and everlasting chisels. They made a wooden handled one and finally a composition handle one. The number 40s was the last series. And Hurwood was closed in 1958. They were in Southington, Connecticut, which is about 9 minutes drive from New Britain. So it was real close. The next acquisition of any note is Roxton, Pond, and Mill. They were in Quebec, Canada, and that company was also closed in 1984 when they moved to England. Roxton Pond was noted for transitional wooden planes. The metal parts were cast elsewhere. They did all the woodwork there. And so most of the wooden products that Stanley sold that included hafting chisels and hafting hammers, anything with a handle, that was all done in Roxton Pond. The next one is Atha Tool Company, Newark, New Jersey. Atha was a striking and prying company. They made hammers, pry bars, that kind of tool. They also made automotive work. So they made automotive hammers, mandrels to pound out fenders, etc. They were also closed in '84 and immediately purchased by C.S. Osborne in Harrison, New Jersey, which is 2 miles away. Eagle Square. Eagle Square Manufacturing Company, Shaftesbury, acquired by Stanley, 1916. They made squares, bevel squares, and miscellaneous tools until the year 2000, when they finally closed. They were bought out by Johnson Square Company.
Was Eagle, did Eagle also make oil cans? Is that the same company that made the Eagle oil cans?
Yes, same company.
Okay.
Okay, Gage Plane Company, Wineland, New Jersey, just outside of Newark. Acquired by Stanley 1919 and sold planes until the 40s. Those are the self-setting planes. They made first wood and then metal. The metal planes are probably the better quality. The wooden ones, they made one simple mistake. They turned the bodies of the planes sideways, so they wore out very quickly. Most wooden planes are made so that the new growth of the wood is the sole, which is actually the most active part of the tree. The rest of it is dead for all practical purposes.
All right, so that is just a few of the companies that Stanley has acquired over the years. They're probably the most well-known names of companies. I just thought that the most interesting thing to me was the marketing and business strategy that Stanley has. So Stanley is the most well-known because they marketed like crazy, and they're still probably the most well-known tool company. If you ask somebody, do you know Stanley? They're like, yes, I do. Because they marketed everywhere. The other thing that I found interesting is if they wanted chisels, they just bought the company. If they wanted a company to make wooden parts for them, they just bought the company. Bingham Planes, they wanted the castings for them, they just bought the company. So that was part of their business strategy, is buying out the other competition so they could continue and acquiring those parts. I do have a separate video, like I mentioned, from George. It talks about how Stanley really never made a plane, and that's because they bought these other companies to make parts for them. That is kind of, I don't know if I'd say closely related, but the plane manufacturing companies nowadays, most of them don't cast their own bodies in-house. They send out, have the castings done, and then they just put their parts on them. I know that for sure about the bodies, but I'm not sure about the other parts. But I just thought that was interesting that what Stanley was doing is still kind of going on. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I geeked out over it a little bit. If you guys have questions, I'll try to answer them, but some of them might just have to get kicked over to George because I haven't dove in deep into this topic of Stanley acquisitions and how all of that worked out. I did put up some pictures from Time Tested Tools. He has a really good timeline study of all the Stanley acquisitions, when they had planes come out, when they discontinued planes, all that kind of stuff. So I'll make sure I'll put a link to that down below. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll try to answer questions, and
Thank you. Have a great day.